Hello, Year 8. Here are the instructions on how to complete the theory component of your drawing assessment task. Now, your practical component of this task has been postponed for the moment until we know more or when we can get back to school. But I'm just going to take you through now on the breakdown of this Peel paragraph just to help you out. Now, it is worth 10 marks and you will be assessed on how to appropriately structure written responses, meaning you followed the correct Peel scaffold, all your sentence structures are correct, etc. You will also be assessed on your understanding of practice in the historical and critical interpretation of art by analysing examples from the artwork. You will also be assessed on whether your Peel response is the correct length, whether it's written with little to no spelling or grammatical errors. Now, the Peel paragraph needs to be structured around this question, which is, do you think the artist has achieved realism? Why or why not? So you need to form an opinion here on whether the artist has actually achieved realism in this artwork, and you're also going to need to use specific examples from the artwork to prove your point. So I've given you a little bit of context about Chuck Close and his paintings and how they can be read. So up close, each section can become a small abstract study, but obviously from a distance, it starts to combine a realistic portrait. So the question is going to be on most of these slides just to help you make sure that you are structuring your response around this question. So to begin, I just want you to have a look at this artwork and I want you to form an opinion on whether you think it looks realistic to you. Is it yes, strongly no, or perhaps it's realistic in some parts? I need you now to decide on whether your stance or your opinion on this before you begin. Now, it's okay to acknowledge that other points of view exist. So you might say, I believe it has realistic aspects, but it also doesn't at the same time. So you might have an opinion that goes both ways. Now, also, if you're thinking, I've already done my Peel paragraph and it's submitted, please, I want you to be listening closely to this video and these instructions, because you might find that you might have done it not properly, and this can help you improve upon your writing and your work. So please, you might need to unsubmit your work, have a look at this, fix it, and then resubmit it. So you'll be typing directly into this Peel writing scaffold. This table can be found in a Google Doc on your classroom. It's been set as an assignment. Please type directly into these allocated sections and make sure that when you're writing in this section, you're only writing point. When you're writing in this section, you're only writing about evidence, etc. So what does a Peel paragraph look like? I have a few examples for you to be looking at. I'm not going to read all this for you, but it has what, which is point, name of the artist, etc. And then actually has the finished Peel paragraph here for you to look at. So that's there for you to have a look at. Here is another one as well, which is a little bit more accurate or closer to what you will be doing. So I would like you to possibly use this one to as a reference to know whether you're on the right track. So here is another example. This one also talks about realism. So I highly suggest looking at this Peel paragraph, reading what is inside each section to help you structure yours correctly. So let's break it down, the Peel paragraph, into 4 areas. So the first area you need to address is point. It does say you just need to name the artist, but you might also like to add a little bit more context, like Chuck Close, born in 1940. He was born in the United States. He's an American painter, and he is known for his monumental size portraits. You might just begin your first sentence or embed that in your point section. The ones in bold are suggestions from now on, just so you know. The title of the artwork, the portrait, you might also say to describe what the artwork is. And you might say it's a portrait of the artist himself. Some other descriptions could be colorful. The grid is noticeable. There's abstract shapes, etc. I also would like you to introduce the topic you're going to discuss in relation to the question. So do you agree or disagree whether the artist has achieved realism? Because everything we're writing has to be structured around this question. Now, please, in your point, don't give examples yet. You do not want to start answering the question in this section. You need to wait until evidence or explain. So in this section, in evidence, please also make sure throughout your whole PL paragraph you're writing in full sentences and using the correct grammar. So provide examples from the artwork that backs up the point you're making. So what's the evidence to show whether the artist has achieved realism? You might start your sentence with, Close has used. As you'll notice, I am not calling him Chuck because I do not know him personally. When you're writing about an artist, you need to be writing about their using their last name. Also with a capital letter, Close and Chuck need to be having capital letters. So you might say Close has used, you might choose some examples. Some examples could be from the elements of art, and you might just need to describe them briefly, the examples that you decide when you're listing them, like how do they look? Do you think the artist has achieved realism? Why not? Referring to the evidence in the last section, you then expand upon those examples. You also need to choose at least one or two specific examples from the artwork to prove your point. So I have just screenshotted and put the explain how from the previous provided example earlier. Sorry, an example provided earlier. So this one specifically mentions how the use of shadows and highlights can be seen on the nose of the reptile in the top left-hand corner of the artwork. That is a specific example, okay? We've talked about it's on the nose. I've identified where it was on the actual artwork. So then that's a specific example, and then you expand upon that. So then Jeffs has used a range of tone on the reptile's nose. So this is obviously not about this person here, but it's just an example of how to do, sorry, I've gone forward, of how to write and explain how. So there's just some writing prompts there to help you bulk up your sentences. These are just optional to use if you're wondering, I don't know what the right word is, or I've just kind of found a few different words that I found from some previous Chuck Close worksheets that you might like to use. That doesn't mean that they're the answers. They're just there to help you as writing prompts. So, and then in link, do you think the artist has achieved realism? Why not? This is a concluding sentence or two where you restate the name of the artist and their artwork title. You sum up the points you made in evidence. You do not add new information here. You also avoid waffy comments like how much of a great artist he is and it's such a masterpiece. Please stick to the facts and only mention what you talked about in evidence and explain. Don't give waffy comments here, please. Very important, this last bit, go back and reread what you have written. So many students do not do this and it really lets them down. That's the point. You always need to go back and reread what you've written. Make sure you've got the correct spelling, you've got full stops, make sure you're making sense. So proofreading is so important as it's where you can pick up simple errors and where you can check, that you're making sense. Check that Chuck Close has capital C's. Check that your spelling is correct. Check that you have reached the word count between 200 and 250 words. Please add your word count at the bottom of the table on the submission doc. Please ask someone at home to have a look at your work to make sure your point is coming across and you are answering the question clearly. Can you please submit this by Friday, 3:25 p.m.? Even if yours was due on Tuesday or Wednesday this week, please ignore that and submit it by Friday, please, for this week for online learning. If you have any problems, please email your classroom teacher if you require any further assistance. Feel free to email me, Miss Ryan, or your classroom teacher. I hope this has been clarifying into how to approach the PIL paragraph on Chuck Close.